In this episode, we'll do some dry assembly, drill for some shelf supports, and do some sanding. Now it's time for some dry assembly. I like to pre-drill all of my cabinets and put them together with screws before I glue them to make sure that everything is right. I could apply the glue, clamp them together, drill and screw them together. If I do that and I've made a mistake, then I have to go awfully quick to get things apart again to fix the mistake. So I like to take my time and do it this way. To do that, we're going to use one of these drills. We have a tapered drill bit with a collar on the outside that does the countersinking. We're going to take a little advice from Norm Abrams of the New Yankee Workshop, and rather than measuring and marking on the other side of the panel to find the center of this rabbet, we're simply going to use our bit, and we're going to eyeball the center and drill a pilot hole from this side. Now that I've drilled all the pilot holes in my side panels, I can start assembling. To do this, I use clamps to hold the panels together. I also like to use these aluminum assembly brackets that I've purchased, which are very handy for keeping things tight and square while I'm setting things up. Just attach them with some spring clamps. Now we can finish drilling our pilot holes. Now with both sides attached, I repeat the process to attach the back, using clamps to hold everything in position. I like to move the clamps along as I work to make sure that all the panels are tight. And finally, we'll put a few screws through the bottom into the back, and we'll just drill those by eye. Before doing the final assembly on the upper cabinets, it's best to drill the holes for the adjustable shelf supports. To do this, I make a jig out of a piece of ordinary pegboard with 1/4-inch holes. I've cut it to the same width as the sides of the cabinet, cut it to the same length as the longest cabinet, and I have marked out the row of holes that I want to use. All I do to use this is to line it up properly with the top and the bottom. Use some clamps to clamp it in place. And then rather than using a bit to drill directly through the pegboard, I don't want to damage the inside of these holes and make them oversized, then things won't line up properly. So what I like to do is use a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and use the point of the bit itself to mark the center location of the hole. I'll start at one end, line it up, give it a little tap with a mallet, and then work my way along to the other end. Because this particular cabinet is 42 inches high, I'm going to be using 3 hinges on the door rather than 2. So one of my hinges is going to be roughly in the center of the door, so there's no point in drilling support holes in that place. So in order to keep myself from forgetting which holes not to drill, I simply take some masking tape and cover up the holes that I don't want to drill out. At the top of the cabinet, I also don't want to drill holes in the hinge locations, so I cover those with tape as well. Now that we have our drilling positions marked on the inside of the sides of the cabinets, we're going to drill the holes for the shelf supports using a brad point bit of the appropriate size. In this case, I'm using a 5mm bit. I've done this with a hand drill. I find that it works better and does a better job in the drill press at a higher speed. Notice also that I've adjusted the depth stop on the drill press so that the drill bit does not go all the way through the plywood. Now that all the cabinets have been dry assembled, it's time to take them apart again and sand all the interior surfaces. This is much easier to do before things are glued together than afterwards. Since plywood is already basically pre-sanded, we don't need to start with a coarse grit. We can go straight to 220 unless there are any significant scratches or problems with the wood that we need to sand out. I'm going to start my air cleaner while I do this, and I'm going to put my dust mask on. Now, one more thing I'd like to mention is that for this project I chose to use unfinished veneered plywood. I thought that if I put the finish on myself, I wouldn't have to worry so much about damaging the finish while I was cutting the plywood up. If I were to do another kitchen, I think I would seriously consider using pre-finished veneered plywood. It's going to save a lot of time. Now, I could sand all these panels, put the finish on, and then assemble everything. Which would be a great idea. The only problem is I just don't have the room to spread out all of these panels while I put that finish on. So I'm going to assemble the cabinets, then I'm going to put the finish on afterwards.